It's a war against us. A war against drugs is a war against us.
I mean, I feel like growing up, I always knew kids who lost, not lost, but who didn't have a parent because someone was in jail for drugs.
It's clearly just all a scam from the start. The drug war hasn't been effective in actually taking drugs off the street.
A lot of people close to me have lost friends and family to drugs. I've lost some friends to drugs, and it's not. I look really emotional right now.
My beliefs with the war on drugs is that the consequences are typically worse than the actual drug use itself in many cases. What I mean by the war on drugs is all of the drug policies that go into prohibiting people from using and consuming drugs or illicit substances.
We don't want to see people go to jail for substance abuse. We don't want to see people go to jail for smoking cannabis or consuming cannabis.
There's a lot of socioeconomic factors that go into how the war on drugs affects people. People that have a lower socioeconomic status are typically the ones that really are impacted by a simple possession charge. They can't afford the bail, they lose their job, then they can't afford housing, they can't afford, whatever their life necessities they need. People that are in lower socioeconomic classes are actually more likely to be arrested.
I was involved in a car accident in Nashville in 2014 where I was found to be in possession of cannabis. I wasn't taken to jail that night. I was given a citation and a court date. I was able to afford a lawyer, and through that we were able to get the charges knocked down to a plea deal where I wouldn't even have to serve probation. I feel like my socioeconomic background definitely afforded me this opportunity more so than others to be caught with cannabis and not even do probation. It seems like it's iffy. I feel like if it were someone of a different background, then oftentimes they're thrown in jail or incarcerated, or maybe even given charged much worse.
One of the first things that happens with the war on drugs is people getting arrested for small use, small amounts of drugs for personal use, and then not being able to afford bail and having to sit in jail. Even if somebody only has to sit in jail for a day or two, they can still lose their job because they could no call, no show to work. And then they lost their job, so then when they get out, they can't afford bail, they can't afford an attorney, they don't have a job, and this can really affect them a lot more than the $20 worth of weed that they got caught with. There's this simple possession use, but then there's people that get caught up in the war on drugs that end up going to prison and become convicted felons. And a lot of times people can do this at a young age, or they make a mistake and now they're convicted felons for life, and it really inhibits them from doing a lot of things. When they get out of jail, they typically have a hard time finding a job, especially if they're a convicted felon. They always have to disclose that information to employers, and a lot of employers can't hire convicted felons strictly for insurance reasons. So it really limits their opportunities, and that causes a lot of recidivism, which is basically the rate at which people return to jail. And those numbers are pretty high. It's definitely I think over 60% of people that get out of jail will go back, and it's typically because they can't find a job and they go back to doing illegal things to get money quick, and then they just land themselves back in jail, and it's just a perpetual cycle. Or they get out and they try to straighten up, but they can't afford the fines and the fees that come along with getting convicted of a crime, and so then they go back to jail for probation violations and that kind of thing.
I have a friend that I used to talk to. Her and a couple of her friends got jammed up. They got stopped by some policemen, and of course, they checked the car. They found 4 grams, and they got arrested for it. They was locked up for like 2 days. Once they got out, they got put on probation for like 8 months. And after that, they had to pay $75 per month. I feel like that's some bullshit. And another situation is also like, I feel like depending on where you stay and where you're from, depends on how the cops are gonna come at you about it. Like, if you're more like less fortunate and from the hood areas, they jam you for bullshit like that. But like, they see you're more uppity, they'll probably give you a slap on the wrist, tell you don't do it again, let the whole situation fly by, you know.
There's so many people put in prison who can't afford good lawyers, who can't afford to, like, whose own background can't get them out of trouble innately, who are sitting in jail for like a few grams of cannabis, or for selling, or for doing something just to make ends meet. Like, the drug war unfairly targets those in poverty, because a lot of times, like, there are just no other options but to get involved in drugs.
You create criminals when you arrest people, and then all of a sudden, not only do they now have this path that's been assigned to them as a criminal, but you actively constrict their rights as a free citizen, and you force them more and more towards like a path of criminality, and it's creating bigger problems.
On paper, it's a noble cause. It should have done a lot of good. There's a lot of evil drugs out there that ruin a lot of lives. But what it's done is really just criminalized everyone down the board, from heroin to cannabis, treating them all as equal.
Incarceration does not make you think, God, I don't want to do drugs again. Like, when you're sitting in a cold-ass jail cell feeling like a failure, like, because you are being told that that's what you are.
There's too many people sitting in jail who never even had the opportunity to be themselves because they got caught up in the phony drug war.
Ten leaves in the dirty ground, when you know you're not around. Shout out to soda bottles, when I hear your lips make that sound. When I hear your lips make that sound. The notes in the mailbox will tell you when I'm coming home. And I think I'm gonna stick around for a while so that you're not alone. For a while so that you're not alone. You can hear a piano fire, you can hear me coming down the hall. If I can just see your pretty voice, don't think I need to see it all. Don't think I need to see it all.
I guess, like, I think that the drug war is evil because it specifically preys on, like, sickest and most, like, in need of help people in our communities, and instead of giving them help, we give them jail time and high fines, and we take away everything from them. And then we continue to repeatedly punish them as they fail to survive in a system that was designed against them and to prevent them from succeeding.
All of it's honestly bullshit, if you ask me. That's just me stating the opinion. That's all I have, you know.